Whoops, I guess right now.
Oh, yeah.
Bing buzz.
I suck. I hit that twice again on accident. But all right. Party people in the place to be. Welcome to a very exciting episode of Pink Buzz. Joining us tonight is the writer, creator, artist, pretty much everything of probably one of my favorite Kickstarters I've backed, Black Blizzard. He has a second issue that is running right now. It is live on Kickstarter. Link is in the description. If you're watching, if you want to check it out, if you want to support, hit that button. But Reese, Mr. Aaron Resse, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about the process.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my name is Aaron Resse. This comic book has been a labor of love of mine for a very long time. It got derailed a bit when I got cancer, and then had to come back into it. And whenever I did, Kickstarter became a more and more viable option. So I started looking into that. As I did all of this comic as just a one-man show. I didn't know how I could get it done, but I was just determined to do it. So I quit my day job, emptied my retirement, and was like, I'm going to do comics from now on.
Well, I gotta appreciate your drive for that, because as a person who completely loves and lives for comics, I really, really appreciate your dedication to the art form. I mean,
I appreciate it.
I wonder where the echo's coming from.
Ooh, I wonder
where the echo. Yeah, not sure about the echo. I get it. From my headphones. I get it. My headphones. I guess I could try to talk through it.
There we go.
All right.
My Wi-Fi was getting wonky for a second. I had to go and my router.
Still got that echo. So yeah, I guess we'll try to talk through it.
Oh wait, is that coming from mine? Maybe.
Okay, is there an echo still? No, it's through Goose. It's Goose's connection that's causing the echo.
Oh. Okay. I'm terribly sorry about that, Aaron. But yeah, as a person who lives and loves comics, and nope, I still got an echo. It got to be me. I'm gonna go check my stuff. You guys ask Aaron some questions.
Yeah. No, man. So you what did you do before you got into comics? You said you quit your day job.
Well, it's not just him then. I technically quit 2 day jobs in the middle of this thing, but I was an investigator for a very long time, and it's one of the reasons I ended up liking procedurals and stuff like that. I worked on a lot of fraud stuff, and I worked with law enforcement on stuff like that. And then I ended up being a communications director and a graphic designer, and more and more got put onto my plate. And I was like, this is a stressful life to live, especially when you're held up to like a higher and higher standard. I was like, well, this kind of sucks now, and I don't want to do this. I like the helping people part. And then it just got harder and harder. I was like, okay, I'll just go do something else. Got a different job, got paid a lot of money to do it. But that was the one where it's like, I really, really dislike working for a boss. I really dislike it a lot. So I quit that one too. And I was like, you know what? I've been doing this stuff on the back burner. I've always done art. I've always been into comics. I did a web comic like 15 years ago. It was fairly popular, and I look back at it now and I'm ashamed of it, but that's not the point. And so like I did all this stuff, and I still did freelance and commissions, and I was like, I'm just going to do this full time and just see how it goes. And if I have to sell all of my belongings to make it happen, I will. So far, the comic book thing's going great, so I'm pretty happy about that.
Cool. So you said you sold. Oh, maybe it's me that's echoing. No.
No, that's me. Anyway. I came back. I'm trying to see if I sound good.
Okay.
No, it's definitely me. Let me hop out and hop back in.
So how stressful was it to, like you said, empty your retirement and to pursue this dream? Like that must have put a lot of pressure on yourself to actually make this successful.
Yeah, definitely did. It was, and of course it's stressful, but it was also like, okay, I'm coming off of 2 pretty stressful situations anyway. And then, after getting the clean bill of health that I did for a while, and then until finally I was like, you know what? I mean, is it going to be worse? Can it be worse? So it that made it a little easier. I'm like, okay, if it can't be worse than what it is, then I'll deal with all that stress. That's fine. I'm good with it.
Well, it's good to hear that it's working out then, because
yeah. I'm pretty happy with it, and mostly I'm happy with it. The comic book itself, because I one of the things that I learned pretty quick is that if I believe in the thing that I'm hawking, because I am, then it's okay. Like it's like, okay, if I think you're going to get a good deal getting this thing, then I'm going to sell it all day long, and I don't have to worry about feeling bad about it. It's not somebody else's product I'm working for. It's something that I believe in, and that really alleviated a lot of that pressure, I think.
So you had
one
one
lot
successful.
to be proud of.
Yeah,
I mean,
you had one successful
and also,
Kickstarter. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead, Johnny.
No, go ahead, Joe.
I was going to say, you already have one successful Kickstarter, and you have a second one that's already getting close to being funded. You're at floating around 80% with about a couple weeks left to go. So what would you say that you learned from the first one that you applied to the second one to make things a little maybe smoother, or run better, or more successful?
Yeah, so the first one, I called in every favor I had to get people to look at it. So that was a big thing that you can't pull that trick twice. But this one, I wanted to add international shipping because I had a lot of people, well, some people I should say, contact me and say that, I live in the United Kingdom, I can't get your comic. I guess I'll just back it digitally, but I actually want a physical copy. So I added international shipping, which is outrageous. So I didn't add it to the lowest tiers, but I added it just so people in the EU or Canada or the United Kingdom can actually get a copy.
Yeah, I feel that pain because I live in Canada and we have horrible shipping rates in Canada.
I don't know if it was your shipping rates or ours, but it was like just getting over the border. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, no, it's Canadian. It's a Canadian thing. Like if I want to ship just a single issue here, it's like roughly probably $9 Canadian. And a book, like a single issue comic, costs like $5. So you're paying more for the shipping than you are for the actual book. So that's not it's not US. It's a Canadian thing.
You say that, but for me to send those books to you that I sent not too long ago. Oh, by the way, before I keep going, is there still an echo?
No.
Sounds great.
Perfect. Yeah.
No, not that I can tell.
I think that was just my tablet acting up. I switched to my phone, so it works out. But no, I shipped some books to Joe not too long ago, and I can't remember, what did I ship to you? Like 10, 12 books? And it was like,
at least a dozen books,
$60. And I was like, God damn it, I could just walk these across the border.
I read about people doing that. There's like, they live in New York, and they're like, I'm just going to go over to Niagara and be done with it.
See, I told Joe, I was like, let's be a comics coyote, where I'll just bring shit from the US to Canada and get y'all cheaper rates. But, we'll see how that goes.
But you live in Texas, and it would be like a lot of gas money just to get across the border to send those books. So yeah, you're gonna need to fund yourself to be able to pull it off. To tell you the truth,
I imagine from where I'm at, it would be easier for me to get to Canada than it would for me to get to El Paso, because Texas is its own small country and it's giant.
Yeah.
But before we get any further on, we do a thing here on the show, Aaron, that's called our check-in, where we kind of shout out what something that we've read or watched that we think is really exceptional this week. And we're going to go ahead and start with you, man. Do you have a check-in?
Yeah, sure. So, I read everything as much as I can nonstop. Hang on one second. I'll just here.
Yeah.
I am currently reading. It's a French adaptation of Moby Dick. It's by it's a comic artist that I barely know, but his name is Chaboutet. And let's see if I can get this in here somewhere. This way.
Oh,
the art is very good, and it's what caught my eye. And I ended up getting this at a comic book convention. So that's what I've been reading. Oh, you put me on full screen. I'll go ahead and let's see. Let's get this. This is a good one. Here you go.
Oh yeah,
I love the
heavy
European
blacks,
art, man.
Yeah. And I've been reading that this last couple days.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well,
Kick ass.
oh yeah. Goosey, why don't you go ahead and take it next and try to keep it brief if you don't mind?
Yeah.
A little bit.
I can keep it brief for sure. I've read a little bit this week. I have, speaking of adaptations, I've been flipping through the graphic novel of The Giver from Lewis Lowry. It is adapted and illustrated by P. Craig Russell, and I don't know if y'all have ever read The Giver, but it's really good in the sense that it starts off in black and white like the book does, and as the character begins to see color, you start to get a little bit more color on each of the panels, and it evolves completely to a fully colored book by the end of it, which I thought was a really neat way of getting that story across in graphic novel form. But not just reading. I had a week where I got to watch a lot of movies with Dakota, and we've been kind of on an Asian horror kick. Started with Train to Busan, then we watched Peninsula that you had suggested. Was super kick-ass. We loved both of those films. We got to watch Soul Station next. And then we watched Malignant, which is a movie. It is entertaining. And cinematography. It is definitely a movie with some Matrix style fucking action towards the back end of it, which I deeply appreciated. But the last two nights we watched what was that? Wednesday night we watched Ju-on, the original Grudge movie, and we both really enjoyed that. But last night we watched Ringu. And I hated The Ring when it came out, the American version. And I almost was going to say I hated that movie last night, but it was actually really good, especially the last 15 minutes. I thought it was a meh movie at first, but those last 15 minutes were super kick-ass, and I see why it got adapted. But that was definitely my week. It was Ju-on, Ringu, and I'm going to make Dakota watch Audition and Ichi the Killer because she probably won't let me make her watch 13 Samurai or 13 Assassins. And so, yeah, I'm going to get her into
That makes no sense. She'll watch Ichi and Audition, but she won't watch 13 Assassins like the Tamer movie out of Mike's catalog. It's kind of crazy, but you got to love that.
Start with the Audition because she probably won't want to watch the other one if you start with Ichi.
I showed her last night, and she was into them. And I showed her the trailer for 13 Assassins, and she was like, "Well, it just doesn't seem like my type of movie." And I was like, "No, it's got like an hour-long fight scene." And she was like, "Yeah, it just doesn't seem like my."
Oh, that's the one with the hour-long fight scene.
Oh yeah, dude.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, you got to. It's
one of Mike's best, man. Take my word for it. It's definitely worth watching. It's a spectacle. Is that what you got, Joe? Goose? I mean, Joey. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Did
Pat and I burned through Midnight Mass on Netflix, which was pretty solid. We enjoyed that one. What's his name? Hamish Linklater or whatever. I don't know that actor's name by heart, but he's awesome. The one who plays the priest in that is great. It was worth watching it just for him. And I read Not All Robots.
Was that the trade?
It's Deodato, right?
No.
That's Mark Russell with Deodato, yeah. I read Porcelain, Maria Levitz. He Who Fights Monsters. That's an Ablaze book. And I finally got around to, I don't know why it took me so long to read the third issue of Barbaric, but I got to that one this week too, which were all very good reads. So if any of you guys should go pick that up and read that. So that's pretty much it for me. That's my check-in. That was short and sweet.
Yeah, I'm going to keep it the same. I'm just going to stick with the big important ones that I read. Probably the most interesting thing is directly after our show last week, I read The Puma Blues, written by Stephen Murphy and drawn by Michael Zulli. It's an 80s comic. Actually, I kind of spanned over the years. I think it kind of took a couple decades to finish, but probably one of the most impressive, just neat comics ever. I got a Kickstarter in that I was always really excited for since backing it. I got the graphic novelization of Will Chris Bear's Kiss Me Judas, Phineas Poe book. So good, man. Just really good noir, really brutal. Femme Fatale, probably one of the best you'll see in a noir book. I got a little while ago, but didn't get to read it. Dan Christensen's Paranormal. It's really good. French clean line style noir graphic novel, kind of superhero noir. Awesome, fun stuff. And then last but surely not least, I read Apori Attica by Marcel Goldmund. And this guy is really neat. It's really short, like character pieces, and oh my god, they're just lovely. But enough with other people's stuff. Let's get talking about Black Blizzard, probably one of the most fun things I've picked up and read in a long time. I backed it probably because it looked interesting and it was insanely cheap. Our buddy Aaron here, he is really, really good at pricing his tiers. Like you can get his books for these modest prices, and it's very welcoming, in my opinion, as a Kickstarter fan, to find these creators that do it like this. And like even if you get the catch up tier on his new one, it's $10. But yeah, this book really kind of gets fun fast and stays that way. It's kind of a David Ayer meets John Constantine story. And Aaron, where did you kind of come up with the basics for Black Blizzard?
Oh God, a lot of places. You hear stories about writers whenever they talk about where they come up with the ideas, and it's almost always they stole it. So, kind of. I mean, I got the idea originally from the 1931 Fritz Lang movie M. That was where the concept struck me, where they have basically the city has gone crazy, and it's based on the Dusseldorf child murderers, where the city erupted into violence and riots and mob mentality, and just drove the town crazy because the police weren't catching this guy. So M was based on that sort of, where the criminals and the police basically just kind of got out of each other's way, and everyone tried to catch this one killer. That's where I got the idea.
The Vampire of Dusseldorf. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember his name. I just learned about him a couple of weeks ago on a Dan Cummins does a podcast called Time Suck where he dives into all these people, and one of them was the Vampire of Dusseldorf. And so when you said that, like, I just kind of got a little bit excited. He was a piece of shit.
Yeah. So the concept came from that. The characters, they're sort of archetypes, although I put them in the story in a way to where, like, any heroic arcs they would have had already happened to them, sort of. Okay. So they're already established type of characters that you've seen in other stuff, sort of. They'll get new ones in this story that are going to be very slow developing, but they're there. And then I have a soft spot for chamber episodes of TV shows or bottled shows where all the characters are stuck in one location, and they usually do it to save money. But I was like, yeah, I like that a lot, but I also really like urban odyssey stuff. So I essentially trapped them all in a van and made them move around a city. So I was like trying to combine those things. I was trying to find basically anything that I relatively liked, like magicians and magic and horror and action and those other things. And like, how can I make this into a cohesive, fun story? Fun being kind of a really important part for me.
Well, you've nailed it. I mean, the book is just entertaining from the first couple pages because you got the big layout, like explaining how hardcore the city is, how crazy the blizzard and the riots are going, and you just see Di just kick back on her chair, just waiting, smoking. And then when Bomb comes in, she just does the "Hey, dude, what's up?" fingers, and like doesn't even really acknowledge him. Like the first person I think she even like talks to is King when he shows up. So like, yeah. I just right off the bat, like you kind of introduce these characters and you don't know too much about them, but you already know and like them right away. As soon as King and Bomb walk in the room, you just start realize like, hey, these guys are going to be cool. Like, and you didn't even have to do like like backstories or really quick flashbacks or anything with them, which I think is pretty strong. I think that makes a book really kind of captivating right off the bat. Go ahead, Goose.
When you say King walked into the room, King snuck into the room, and that
Yeah,
was so when he's like,
yeah.
room, he's like, I'm a cop. I have a gun. Like, sneaking around is not something you should do. And like, I laughed really hard at that because the character really just popped up out of nowhere, and it's great. I loved it. All the character introductions were super awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks. It was I had to build that scene sort of backwards as it turned out, because waiting I thought was a really important part of what's going to happen in the story, because these characters they're going to be trapped by a blizzard. Like the city gets shut down, the ice is going to start building, like it's just going to get worse and worse, and essentially they're just stuck with each other. So you kind of want to at least build in the idea that okay, they're just going to be at times sitting there going, okay, like what do we do?
Yeah, no, it was. I definitely like the concept, especially where because it explains kind of shortly that the city is going through these riots, and you, especially when we were talking about King, you get that moment where King steps out of the van and confronts the 47th Street volunteers, and like, oh, dude, it was so kick ass, and like I can't wait to see because they're not so much working as a team in that first issue as in they've just been paired together. And so when they're like, oh, can we just kill him? And the guy's like, I'm a cop. Right? And, oh, dude, it was, I enjoyed it a lot, especially the scenes. Like I said, Bomb was my favorite character, but King and Deja were definitely up there with it, especially as they're getting into the van outside. And Deja looks over at Furia and she's like, are you not cold? And she's got like the shirt that's opened up down to her navel. And like, she's like, no, I'm going to be fine. Yeah. Like, oh, dude, it was great.
Thanks. Yeah,
so are they from rival magic factions or Daedra and Feria? Are there different magic houses in the town, or is that kind of what's going on with those two characters?
Basically, yeah. So the group that Deidre is from is just a straight up group of, it's a magical order, and they get more into that. Like the police are cracking down, like they're just trying to stifle crime because everything's going wrong in the city. So anything related to anything occult, they're like trying to stamp out as much as they can. So all the magical orders are under a lot of pressure. A lot of the criminal organizations are under pressure, etc. So they kind of get involved reluctantly into it. And Furia is in a very shadowy group. I don't want to say too much about them, but it's called the Temple of Union. And everyone kind of has their opinion on what they are, but no one really knows, except she clearly knows something about magic, like that comes through. But other than that, they're just like, what are you? Like, what do you do? Like, what? And then she's like, she mentions that they do all these things. Like, yeah, they're a business organization. They're a magical order. They're, the only thing she denies is that they're a cult. Like, that's it.
Well, speaking of them, you had mentioned before about like the procedural, the procedural cop shows. There's that scene where they get into the house with the first. I don't know if that was the first murder. It was one of the murders.
It was the first murder scene.
The first murder. Yeah, that's what I thought. And they instantly start going into detective mode, where she's like, we see Levian symbols. We see this type of. I can actually pull it up. I've got it right here. But I thought that was interesting, especially mentioning the satanic panic, which I really liked it. And then they go through, well, let's cut up the carpet and see where they had the actual blood at. I thought that was very well done. And when you said you were into the whole procedural thing because you did the investigation stuff, like I thought that shone through really, really well.
Thanks.
Where did you get the idea for having the occult involved in this, or was it something that was kind of planned from the start?
That was planned from the start. It was always part of it, because I know who the killer is and what the killer's motivations are and what's going on, and that was the driving force of it. And I basically built everything around that concept.
Yeah.
And so the magic stuff is like, okay, if there's actually going to be some sort of magic in this, even if it's low level, there are going to be people who come into the world that know how to recognize it or know that it's broken, wrong, what will work, what won't work, how to find it, stuff like that. So that's whenever Furia and Deidre come into the picture.
So you built the story, you had the idea or the concept of having the occult as not the occult, but the main killer as someone who is into the occult, and then you just kind of built the world around that?
Pretty much, yeah. That's where I started.
Very nice. You did an awesome job. I grew up like reading the Necronomicon and being very into the occult, and so when they were talking about the like Enochian script and Levian is it symbology? Is that the right word?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Because I don't know why. Because I read the word earlier and I was like, symbology.
It's because of the movie Boondock Saints. Like Willem Dafoe destroyed anybody ever saying the word symbology. Symbolism. Come on, Greenlee.
Coffee, 2 sugars. But no, I thought that was very well done because I love learning about the occult, and I have not a super knowledge about it, but I've been into it for a while now, and so that definitely drew me in. As soon as it got to that scene, and the Copperfield reference, I think that was referenced. He's like, "Come on, Copperfield." Like I thought that was a nice little jab into her ribs.
Yeah, it's funny. If I remember right, I'm trying to remember how I wrote that page because I might end up doing like a commentary on it or something like that, like a creator commentary thing. But if I remember right, like I changed the name of the magician like 3 times. Because it started out as Copperfield, like because I write dialogue extremely quick and then I go back and edit. So it started out that way, and then I'm like, do people know who David Blaine is? Do people know Chris Angel? I was just trying to screw it, I don't care. Like, and I went back to Copperfield. I was like, okay, he's the most famous one for about 20, 30 years, so I'll keep him in.
Yeah, it was really nice. I like that little touch to it. I like how well the characters kind of play off of each other. Being so different, they come out. The dialogue is really witty, and the way that they interact with each other is. I don't want to say it's like the characters from Reservoir Dogs, but when you get those characters from different backgrounds and throw them in together, and you get those, the wise guys and the more serious ones, like I think you did a really good job of showing their personalities within just the first issue alone. And how did you come up with like, for instance, like I said, Bomb was my favorite. Like, where was the idea from Bomb born at?
So Bohm is he's my favorite archetype character. Yeah. Like my favorite character is somebody who just basically goes through walls to get to whatever he's after. Doesn't mean he's stupid. It just means that like point A to B is clear, like it's a straight line. You just go through whatever you have to get to it. That's him through and through. And he's a mercenary character. So he doesn't take everything too seriously, and he's probably also seen, if you're in a private military company, you've seen enough to get into the private military company. So taking things seriously isn't going to be the top, like it's not going to be something like where like the cop kind of has to be somewhat more somber at a murder scene, that's kind of their role. Like he doesn't care at all. No one impresses him. No one. He believes that everyone there is, they deserve to be there for whatever reason. But no one's gonna blow. No, he's not gonna be like, "Wow, you're so cool" because of any reason whatsoever.
Yeah.
Like when he's talking to Deidre, and so he says you're a magician. Do a trick for us. Not that kind of magician. Okay, you're the sucky kind then.
I definitely like that. Oh man. Yeah, no, it was everything. I mean, you did everything on this book, and that really impresses me. Because there's you have your writers, you have your artists, and then I think when you go into the title of illustrator, which is kind of what I guess that's the correct term. Like, I think that's a different level of creativeness. And I think you really like top the charts on that, because I'm looking at it now on my tablet, and man, it's phenomenal. Especially the ending of the first issue. I was not.
Oh, right. Thanks. Yeah.
I was not prepared. I mean, I knew it was going to have something to do with the occult, but I was really not prepared for the monsters. And the one that really got me, that still sticks in my mind, is the fingers.
Yeah.
Dude, that was fucking.
It reminds me of Berserk, when they're in the God Hand, when all the monsters come out and start eating all the guts as friends. It really reminded me of that scene. Like the monsters were reminiscent of Mr. Mayura's as well. Yeah. Was that kind of an influence of that?
Manga straight up the main influence of that double page spread. I hope it came across, and like I'm glad you both mentioned something like that. Yeah, it was especially influenced by Junji Ito, because I for the most part this has been an action book up to that point. But whenever you introduce horror in a Western comic, they mostly, they can be creepy, but they're mostly not like really scary. So if I'm going to aim at something that is going to make you think about it longer than it takes to turn the page, I wanted it to reflect that. So I did. That was actually all on paper, and it was on really what is it? It was really coarse paper. I did it so you can see the gradation and the line change, and I did that all to make it look like you just suddenly got drawn out of the style that I'd established is throughout the entire issue, and you're like, okay, why? At least it makes you hopefully pause and look at it. And a big part of it was manga, definitely 100%.
Well, since we're on the subject, and you did say it was inspired a lot by Junji Ito's work, do you have some of your favorite mangas? I mean, what are some of your tops?
I'm not huge into manga, except I am into the craft of it a lot. Like, I think that those guys are insanely good, and fast. Oh my god! And I know some of them have teams, but it doesn't matter. Like, it's just the way that they can churn that out and keep that stuff energetic is pretty amazing. And I think I can't really avoid saying Atomo, can I? No. Nope. I mean, like everyone says Atomo, so it's him though. Like, he's doing that kind of work where it's just the this rigid, nonstop, hyper level of detail that he does, and then all the cartoons running through it. It's just such a cool, weird juxtaposition. And Ito I like a lot, but
backgrounds and the characters,
Mm-hmm.
There are two panels that stood out to me right away when I was reading it. The first one was where they're going through the file and you get the picture of the murder victim, and with the ink washes and stuff like that. I love that. I thought that was a beautiful panel. It had some beautiful textures in there with the ink washes and stuff. I thought you did a really great job with that one. And the other panel I really loved was that there was a large panel, a close up of one of the citizens where he's yelling, "We're sick of it. We're not going to take it." And where the blizzard, where you really get the textures from the blizzard in it, and you gave some of that like brush spatter kind of effect for the snow. And I love the textures you got from that too. Those two panels I thought were beautiful. I love those two panels. Those ones were great. Yeah.
The photograph in the file, that one is I at least wanted to show some sort of difference that for sure you're looking at something that's not in the world that I kind of established for the characters walking around and stuff in. And that was the one that worked, because I did try other stuff and I was like, no, this one, I like this. I like the wash. Yeah. And then the other one. So one of the things I did in it, I don't know if you can tell, it's kind of a subconscious thing, but all of the snow is blowing right to left when you read it. And as you read through the issue and then into the next one and then into the next one, I'm hoping that you'll start to notice whenever that snow gets thicker, your eyes are constantly dragging against it the whole time. Okay. So it will hopefully build up more resistance as you read the comic. But yeah, that was one of the things. Maybe you see someone on a camera outside and you see the snow blowing. That was kind of what the direction was.
That's really
the ones with the snow. Really, I like those panels. They were great.
I'm looking back at it now, and I see what you're talking about, and that's actually really neat. Kind of where I wouldn't say the snow is opposing them, but you can definitely get this idea that the blizzard is not the driving force, but it is what's holding the characters themselves back, and that's really neat. I'm glad you mentioned that, because it looking at it now, it definitely brought my eyes to those panels. Kick ass.
Another thing that crossed my mind is now, like, it's seeing as how there's a blizzard coming, and it's a black and white book. And did it ever cross your mind to maybe put like that's pretty trendy now, is the black, white, and red type stuff that all the companies are doing? Did it ever kind of cross your mind just to put like the spot color, like the red in there? Because there's a lot of action, a lot of shooting. There's going to be a lot of tearing monsters apart and stuff. Is that something that crossed your mind a little bit that you could have maybe done, or that you were kind of toying with? Or
Yes.
Yeah. Because it would have been the perfect. This would have been a perfect book to do that. Like, so I could totally see, especially with the white snow. Right, the blizzards come. There's going to be a lot of white. So, oh man, that could have been something really.
I'll give you. I wanted it to be a surprise, but I'll give you an exclusive. The second book will have color in it.
Oh, there you go. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So the first comic, you notice how regimented and rectangle and square the panels are a lot of the time. Mm-hmm. That's all on purpose. A lot of it's on 9-panel grid or a 5-panel stack. And I did that specifically to give you. It's sort of a comic book reader's home. Like, that's the language that all of us know, that we all familiar with, comfortable with. And if something changes in that, you're going to notice it much more quickly. So like whenever King kicks that guy in the face, like, you notice how canted the panel gets. Same thing with color. I like set up a very harsh black and white world. So there will be color that comes into it. And it's just going to be one more thing that will tip your chair back a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you sent the 5-page sample as well. And in there, like you said, like, you break from the grid format when you show the sequence where Bomb is fighting the monsters. You get the swirl, kind of like a blizzard swirl, almost like we're in the action. It kind of mirrors like the storm, right? He's fighting in the storm of bad people, and I like the way you did, like, the swerve and in there to show the action. That was pretty cool.
Thanks. Yeah, those pages like that, those are the ones that where I am building up that. Like, I drew that page in July, I think. And so, I mean, I'm very specifically aiming at certain moments, hopefully not too much like Todd McFarlane, where you're like, how did I get here? But there are parts where you're like, okay, I have to set up a situation where this page is going to have the impact I want it to. And so there's a lot of thought that goes into building to it, and how do I get to a page where it does look. Thank you for mentioning it look like a storm. Like that's one of those things. Like, okay, I want to make sure that this reads in juxtaposition with other pages, and they have a relationship with each other. It's different.
Yeah, because like you say, you have the grids, and then once the action starts, it gets a little more chaotic. It doesn't follow the same sequential or like pattern that you had. Like, it breaks the pattern because, like you said, it's chaotic. Like, these things are coming at them, so the layouts get much more like a fluid, more random kind of feel to it. So it mirrors like the action and it was a beautiful layout for that. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
I have this page pulled up because I have to show it. Oh no. It's the tablet. I'm sorry. I'll pull it back up in a second, Johnny. Hold on.
Okay. But going off of what Joe was talking about, my actual favorite panel is where King runs up and just jump kicks that Cthulhu monster in the preview you sent us. But I didn't realize it, but that's a good point. So when the monsters show up, that's the reality break. The whole book kind of gets crazy after that shows up, the panel layout's going to change, color's going to be introduced. So that's the big changeover, like Fight Club style, that you kind of are switching on for the reader. That is a neat way to do a narrative there, sir. I applaud you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm hoping any trick that I put into it at least registers on some subconscious level, because I don't expect any comic readers to just like notice that, except for to notice something's different. Like that's really the main thing. Like, okay, get you to slow down a second or two and go, why? Like, I don't want to be confused, but just why did this happen?
And it has to do with some really deep magic, which kind of makes me think the character Carlo, who doesn't really have a name, is he more than human? Like that is a thing that I have going on. Is he like a familiar or a demon? Maybe is kind of what I was thinking.
Oh, that's something okay. I won't give that away. He's I can't tell you he works for the syndicate. He like his name would come up on like whatever job he's on is like, okay, I have to think of some other alias. But yeah, I don't want to get into the part where whether he's human or not. Not yet.
No,
okay.
Because it's that line where it's like, and what is your name? And he says, I haven't come up with it yet. I thought that was really great.
Thanks. Yeah, it's a film is sort of my first love. And sometimes I'm really jealous of sound, but all those old movies you watch, or I mean, I was thinking of The Man with No Name specifically because literally has no name. But then there are newer crime movies like Layer Cake, where the main character doesn't have a name. So stuff like that. Like Carlo is somebody very comfortable moving in and out of that world. No, like where you're just never going to know who he is, and he just disappears at the end.
When you say The Man with No Name, you're talking about
Eastwood. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's what popped in my head. I love spaghetti westerns. It's because I'm from Texas, I guess.
Okay. Cool. Due to the occult nature of the book and how ominous his character is, I just had to ask, and then I thought that like, oh man, am I getting into spoiler territory? But yeah, no, I'm happy with your answer. I'm really excited to see where his arc goes. Like I said, I like all the characters in this book right off the bat. They're interesting. Even the cop Miller is cool. You like his jokes. You understand the stress he's having to go through dealing with these, because like you said, like I wouldn't call Baum like a criminal, but he's definitely not on the right side of the law on this. You know what I mean? And probably some of the things that he may do in country, all decked out in his urban. I don't know what you even call that kind of suit, but yeah,
it reminds me a lot of the characters from Army of Two with the
that's what I was thinking. The Army of Two suits, straight up.
with the where you can do the different masks and customization. I love that game. But no, that was the first thing that popped into my head, and that's one of the reasons I fell in love with Bohm. Is that was one of my favorite games, and so when I saw him, I immediately thought like it just Army of Two like popped into my head immediately.
Yeah, one of the fun things about Army of Two, which it is very much inspired by that aesthetic. That since that time, everything's been inspired by that aesthetic. It's kind of interesting watching. I don't know, like any Tom Clancy game, like that archetype, that character is in that game now. He's a bad guy in whatever Call of Duty games. Like you're always going to see this guy decked out in tactical armor.
No, I mean you've mentioned game. Well, I brought up Army of Two, but you've mentioned games, especially like that. Are you a fan of games? Do you play games a lot, or?
I used to. I don't so much anymore. I don't have time now, unfortunately. But yeah, I used to play a lot of Ghost Recon, which was my favorite. I like realistic tactical shooters a lot. I definitely played Call of Duty way too much. Yelled at my screen way too much. Through a couple controllers that don't work, I play Call of Duty.
I feel that nowadays. I play a lot of Zelda. I just finished up. Link's Awakening on the Switch, which is the remaster, and it's one of my favorites. I play a lot of more calm games now because I spent a lot of time playing. What is that? The Rocket League. I started playing Rocket League.
Oh yeah.
pretty heavily, and then like my TVs and controllers started to suffer, and so I don't play competitively anymore. I just play single player games where you get to do your thing.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of The Witcher. Like I don't have to fight with other people. No one yells at me, calls me names. That's great. That's what I like.
Well, I guess we've been talking about Black Blizzard, which is phenomenal, as I've said. Besides Black Blizzard, where are you planning on going from here? I mean, I know you said you quit your day, you're going into comics now. Like, do you have not so much a spot where you want to be, but what you're building to? Like, what is the next step from here?
I do actually, yeah. So the comic books are honestly my first love. Like I love them more than anything, which is why I do other stuff. Like I do other art stuff, but it was just like I just couldn't squash the idea of doing this comic. Like there's stuff I was making other money on, and I'm just like, but I love comics so much I can't not do this. So I had to figure out in my head how I was going to do something. So what I've been working toward eventually is Ravencroft City, the city that, the back matter, you get to read a little bit about it. This is where the characters interact. There's a map of it. And they're like, that's going to be a role-playing setting. So I will have a role-playing game that is attached to that city and these characters and the lore and all of that stuff.
Like a tabletop RPG?
Yep.
Oh my God. Are you into? I'm guessing so because you brought it up. But you're into tabletop RPGs?
Yeah. So I wasn't until I was 35. Like one of my friends, my friends and I were out winter camping. It was, I think, 8 degrees, and we're hanging out around a fire. And like we're big fans of camping and nature and stuff. And one of them was like, "Hey, if I run a D&D game, you guys want to play?" And I was like, "I mean, only because you're asking, because that sounds stupid." I was like, I don't want any. There are elves. This is silly. I played it for the first time. I was like, this is the most fun I've ever had in my life. And I've been playing ever since.
I played a lot. There was a comic store when I lived in Fort Worth, and that's where I got into it at. I'd always kind of wanted to play, and there was a group for beginners, and I got into it really heavily. And then we moved from Fort Worth right at the end of 2019, and I was looking for to play with here in my small East Texas town, and then the pandemic hit. And so it had been 2 years. It had been 2 years since I was able to play, and just recently my partner Dakota was on Reddit on a Beyond the Bump thing, which is a pregnancy subreddit, and a woman was like, I just had my kid, I want to get back into D&D. And so now on Saturdays we have an all-parent D&D group.
That's cool.
I'm so excited about it. I just got a bag of tricks, slippers of spider walk, and helm of telepathy, which I'm going to use for my self-road character.
Nerd.
Nerd all you want. I am going to be walking on ceilings, reading people's minds, and it has been.
You don't already do that, Goose? I mean, I thought you already had all those powers. Come on, man. Like, you sell yourself way too short, my friend.
I gotta say, like, whenever I started playing, and all the times that I had ridiculed Dungeons and Dragons, and I was just like, man, I'm a dick. This is really fun. I wish I would have done this a long time ago.
Yeah, no, it's so much fun. Now I have to ask, what alignment and character are you normally drawn to? Like, because I usually go for the rogue archetype.
I've played at this point. I've played almost everything just because I like playing with character. I mean, so in my comic, like, you can tell I like playing with. They're essentially playing with action figures, like making them do stuff. So whenever I do like play Dungeons and Dragons or role playing games, stuff like that, I will. What's that? What's that do? I just want to see what that does, and so I'll just yeah.
And
what I can't do is play a stupid character. Not like it's a bad thing. It just I'm not good at it. Like I can't. I'm not interesting. I guess it doesn't work for me.
Well, I try, like in my normal life, I try and be I guess chaotic good, but every time I play a character, I always tend to go for like chaotic neutral and have a character that's just a piece of shit, so I can have the little things in my head, like when you want to choke somebody at work and then you go and play D&D and somebody pisses you off like an NPC and you can just actually choke them. And I stabbed a woman in the face last week just for sliding me, and like that was great. Now you also said you're into camping and nature, and you said you were out in what 8 degrees.
Nice switch over there, face stabber. Not the point. You said 8 degrees. What part of the country are you in?
I live in Kansas City. So we went up a little bit north of here to a town called Weston. It's a state park that we have in Missouri. And they're open. They have like one loop that's usually open year round. So we camp there, one of the other sites that are near us. We tried to, well, before I got sick, we tried to do it every year.
That's super. I love camping. A couple of years ago, I actually out in White Sands, New Mexico, camping through Thanksgiving, and had an awesome time. Me and Dakota love to forage. I've actually been foraging mushrooms here recently, but I've been to Missouri. God, it's such a small town. I know that's very nondescript because Missouri is full of small towns, but my buddy's parents live, and I'm trying to remember the name of it, but I found out when we went to Missouri that they do not have laws against drinking in the vehicle as long as you're not driving.
Correct.
And so we went to go, because we were there for 4th of July, and we drove from that little, it's about an hour away from Joplin. And like we drank the entire way in the back of his sister's van, and then bought a fuck ton of fireworks, and then drank all the way back. And it's a fun time, dude. Missouri's the spot. Except for
I did that when I was younger.
With my
Can't do that anymore.
They call creeks there, and that bothers me a whole lot. The guy's like, "Yeah, we can go fishing down in the creek," and I said, "The what?"
There's a very stark dividing line in Missouri. If you're north of it, that we don't say that.
Well, he can make fun of people saying the word creek. Say the word Windigo for the man. Windingo. So yeah, Goose making fun of the way other people say stuff is hilarious. Windingo.
Somebody else said, they said the Windigo, and I went, God damn it, I was so wrong. I don't know why in there for Windigo.
Is there any chance we could see some Windingos in a Black Blizzard? Maybe have them foraging for mushrooms? That'd be like perfect.
Well,
I think that's a lot of people don't really spend that time out in nature, and I think it's a sort of peacefulness that you don't really get. That's part of the reason why I loved White Sands, because out there you are, I think, almost 60 miles from the nearest city, and the nearest city is El Paso and Juarez, and there's no ambient light out there. So when you're in the desert and you look up at the night sky, it's mesmerizing. And I was out there with my best friend, and we spent 6 nights out in the desert, and you really get this feeling that you don't normally get from being in a social or an urban setting. And so I definitely love camping and love being out in nature. So I love that. That's one of the things that you're into.
Yeah. You go ahead. Sorry, Johnny.
No, I was gonna finish talking about camping. I was gonna revert to talking about your book.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Let's go back. Yeah, let's talk about. Yeah, I mean, I can talk camping all day long, but not a camping podcast. So let's talk about the comic.
Well, since you're developing a RPG book, I was going to say, so you're going to be doing more content, maybe in comics, about the city as well, like having different stories maybe take place during the blizzard or just in the city in general. Is that kind of the plan?
Yeah, the city. It's both. It's the city in general. I'm gonna have there are many stories in the city that I already have in my head. There's a little like a postscript sort of thing on the inside cover of the first comic book that just talks about how there's a bunch of stories in the city that are going on, and then we're just going to talk about this one because these are the characters that affect what happens the most. But yeah, I had a bunch of other stories. I have stories that take place in the spring a lot because I like I'm very fond of noir movies, and I wanted like just this constant rainfall on the city at some point. I want to do that. I want to draw that stuff. I want to tell those stories. I a noir character type thing, because this one's more of a team action investigation type story. So if people will let me get away with it, I'll do it forever. I'll just never stop telling stories in the city. But there are other cities too that might exist, maybe.
Well, one thing that I thought was super interesting was at the end of the first issue, you had those news clippings and you had those kind of short stories. Are those kind of all set in the Ravencroft area, or because I saw that you did the little sports thing that looked like a little, like, newspaper, and then it goes from there, and it kind of had the short, like, I guess 3-panel little minis, and I thought that was super interesting. I was wondering if those were set in the Ravencroft area as well.
Yeah, those are little Easter eggs of stuff that I wanted to do that I'm just like, I'm never really going to get to do these particular things that are fun, like the one where they're fighting the wizards are fighting the vampire, very traditional D&D type thing. It's like I took that from, the old Tomb of Dracula comics and Archie Goodwin writing and stuff like that. I wanted to do like a little version of that that's going to go on for a little bit. There's another crime story in there. There's the sports thing that's going to have a little twist on it later. Then I want to do a 1-panel like family circus version with 2 demons kind of thing.
Awesome.
Well, that was kind of the feeling that I got when it started off with the sports story in the newspaper, and then it moved on to those smaller kind of mini comics at the back. I kind of thought that they were like a Sunday strip type of deal.
Yeah. The newspaper is sort of like you obviously don't need to read it. I don't expect anyone to just like, ooh, what's in the back matter, but it'll give you some context. It will. One of the most important things on the page is going to be the dropping temperature, like the weather report that it's going to come up. So that's going to be a pretty important part.
Because the blizzard's going to get worse and worse as the action picks up, right? Pretty much.
Absolutely,
the theme of it, yeah.
It's just going to be nonstop. So they're going to have to face all the problems with, okay, what happens when things freeze? How real stuff that seems simple, except for if they're trying to race against someone killing people, it just gets more and more problematic.
Fair enough. I understand the whole freeze thing. We had Snowmageddon down here.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Dude, I got to see it for the first time in my life this year. It was pretty incredible.
Oh, wow.
Snow sucks. I never loved the substance, man. I'm a California boy. We drive to see the snow, and then we leave, after we've had our fill. You know what I mean? It was fun for a day. Let's leave it alone.
At 20.
With those little,
I like the idea of the blizzard being. Oh, I was just gonna say, I like the idea of the blizzard almost being like its own character in the story.
Yeah, it's going to be a more really oppressive force eventually. Yeah. Yeah. The comics in the back are. It's okay. Yeah, the comics in the back are also some of them are canonical, like they're just stories that happen in the city. They may be told in sort of a silly way, like the Archie Goodwin type writing, that cheesy 70s stuff, which I love. But it's telling a story that maybe did happen, except it's just this fantastical version of it. And the crime story, the same thing. And I'm gonna have a little sports story. It's gonna be all that stuff. I really like the back matter a lot. I had a lot of fun with it.
So the second issue, it's going to be action packed, like the preview sent us. Pretty much the full issue is going to be kind of like that, or
it's gonna come and go. So the action, it's I did want to. I feel like I'm always threading a needle with the comic because it is going to have action all the time. There's actually one issue of it that is not going to have basically any action, technically any live action in it. And it's going to be drawn completely differently. It's going to look completely different. It's all planned, but it's also going to take me forever. And it's down the road, but for the first several issues, it's going to be waxing and waning, the valley where you can catch your breath, and then it rises, and then it comes back down. And a lot of it's going to have to do with essentially the characters go to the danger, but they don't go without preparing a little bit, or at least knowing what they're trying to get their hands around stuff. So it's never going to be. It's not always going to be like jam-packed action all the way end to end. But yeah, it's this one's definitely going to have some. The next one's going to be probably the most. Like issue 3, I think is going to have probably the most action out of any of the first 8 or so issues.
And you're planning on doing one a month kind of for the campaigns, or what's kind of the breakdown that you have set up for that?
I'm aiming at bi-monthly because it seems like I can do that. If it turns out without an inker, letterer, publisher, publicist, marketing team, like it tends to. I can draw 4 pages a day technically if I just penciled them. But like all the rest of the stuff, it ends up being like, okay, I get 3 pages a week done. So it's going to be about once every 2 months.
So I want to ask you. I want to touch on that. You do everything yourself from A to Z. This book is entirely yours. This is your baby. So what advice would you give to someone? Because this is your first. Black Blizzard is your first book, aside from the web comic you said you did that you don't want to talk about.
The joke's good, but man, that arc's bad.
So what advice would you give someone that's like coming in and taking on all that work for themselves? What kind of advice would you give them to try to help them out on their way to accomplishing making their first book?
Yeah, the first thing I would say is something I said a little bit earlier. You have to love your product. You have to love your project. Like, I mean, so everything you're doing, if you're doing it because you love it, it's not necessarily going to come through in the work, but it is going to drive you forward doing it. You don't dread sitting down at the table. You don't have that anxiety coming into it. And also, whenever it's done, you look at it and go, I really like this. I really like this, and I want other people to read it, and I think they'll like it too. That's going to be the single most important thing, I think. Even if it takes you 3 months, I've talked to people who can, they do 60 pages a year, and that's all they can get done. But they're like, but I have to do it.
Cool. And the other question that was kind of relevant to that too is your first book was you used Kickstarter to fund it, to get it out. And you've had one successful campaign under your belt, and you're on your way to having a successful second campaign. So right there as well, what are little tips or things you could tell people that are coming out on Kickstarter? Because just recently I just saw 2 books. One failed to get back this week, and there was another one about a month ago that just managed to get back by the skin of their teeth. And both books look good. Like, they look like good books, but for some reason they just didn't get funded. But you have yours coming out, and you seem to have gotten your first one funded and this second one seems to be going well as well. So what tips would you give to people to have a successful campaign if they want to back a project that they're, putting out themselves?
Be shameless.
Be shameless.
Yeah, absolutely. Just absolutely just push all your chips into the middle of the table, being like, hey, you, I don't know you, read my comic. Hey, you, I don't know you, read my comic. Hey, do you want to read my comic? Like, nonstop. Don't be afraid to push the book as long as you believe in it. Because I can't imagine trying to hawk something I didn't believe in. It'd be really problematic for me. But as long as it's your baby, you're doing it because that's what you want to do. Yeah, I mean, beg, borrow, don't steal. But like, talk to anybody you know. Hey, can you help me share this? Can you get the word out? Can you talk to your friends? Anything, just any push you can give, anywhere you can post about it. Like, just absolutely be unafraid to get the word out.
Yeah. So really, really beat that pavement and, hustle and like
nonstop hustling. That is a fact. Yeah.
Yeah. Good advice.
Also, being really, really, man, I forgot the word I used, but just having really good tier options for your book, I think, helps too. I've noticed a lot of people with their first ones or their early ones, that's how they really, really catch on, is not trying to be, greedy with it. You do have something that you're proud of and that you love, but at the same time, you realize this ain't being put out by Image, man. You can't be like trying to act like, oh, I want this. Like, I think that Aaron undersells
Very
his
good
book, to
point.
tell you the truth. But at the same time, I think that that's one of his strongest suits in his campaigns.
Thanks. It's a really good point. I'm glad you brought that up because I definitely view this as a product. It's not just something I love doing. It's something you're buying, and I do have a responsibility to give you something that's worth whatever you're paying. And it's extremely important to me. Always has been, always will be. So I definitely wanted to make it to where even if the some people that maybe think it's not worth it, that's fine. Like don't drop the money if you don't think it's worth it. But I want to try to get you as close to that line as possible, even if you don't end up liking it. Be like, all right, this is I'll take a flyer on this. I'll check this out.
I would pay $15 for an to back Black Blizzard, to tell you the truth. So yeah, your five. Anybody that tries to tell me the 5 that you ask for is too much, like, what are you reading? Like, honestly, I want to know, because you're crazy. Like, this book it's fire, and mark my words, it'll be like a Netflix movie in a year or two, and like it'll have Chris Hemsworth as Bohm, and it'll be amazing, and everybody will be like, "Oh, I love this comic so much," and I'm like, "Yeah, why didn't you pay $5 for it 2 years ago, guy?"
If Chris Hemsworth is Bohm, I'm good. Yeah, I'll die happy. That'll work. That'll be fine.
I just, that's who I hear when I'm reading his lines, like him trying to do his American accent. Like, that's what I see.
I'm gonna have to shake that because now I will too. Even when I'm writing, like, yeah, wait, no, that's what Johnny said.
Well, you've been talking about your love for comics. Do you have a dream character or a character that you've always wanted to write? Can be big too, or indie or whatever. But is there a specific character that you've always wanted to write? Or
I don't have a dream character that I always wanted to write. Like the very first comic that I ever wrote was a 7-page Batman story when I was like 8. So I've always liked Batman, of course. Spider-Man was the first character I fell in love with, but I don't want to write him. Like, I don't, like, it's one of those things where I like my characters and my stories, and I think that's where I have something to offer. I'm a fan of some other stuff, like those major characters, and I kind of want to keep them there. Like, I like being a fan of those guys.
No, that's actually, I think, the most interesting answer to that question that I've gotten, because a lot of people have that character in their head, but I definitely understand wanting to distance yourself from the things that, not distance yourself from the things that you love, but not putting yourself in a position to begin to hate those things, like that labor of love where you're the character that you fell in love with.
That's what happened with John Byrne on Superman. Like, he hated it. And he was like, I would never do it again. I don't want to do it. I don't like Superman anymore. It's like, well, that sucks. How horrible would that be?
Right. No, I definitely get that, because everybody has that one answer, but then you get to write the character, and then, where do you go from there? And so I definitely like that answer a whole lot, because being a fan and then separating yourself from being a fan and being a creator, I think is something that a lot of people don't have. And so that's a very interesting answer to that question.
We have a question from the chat. Our buddy Serge wants to know, is it not wanting to be tied down to creativity of an established character or IP that kind of informs that opinion?
Yeah, probably. It's not actually the characters that would bother me so much. I don't think that does have somewhat of a chilling effect, but because I can, my characters are in danger and they could die because they're mine. So I know that can come about. You can't do that with an established character, not easily anyway. So there's that. But more of, I don't want to work with an editor who answers to a senior editor who answers to a president, to a CEO. Like, I don't want to be part of that chain. That's the main thing.
That goes back to the not wanting to have a boss thing, which
yeah.
and like doing your own. Very
like
respectful.
versus creating your own work, more creative freedom, which you kind of answered the question before he typed the second part out. But I gotta say, like, with the characters you create in your own world, I'm actually more interested in seeing what you want to do than actually see you have to capitulate to editors and write something that's gonna eventually you're gonna have to stop writing what you want to write and tie into whatever big event they're trying to crap out this year as
Yes.
well. That's another problem you have to worry about.
Yeah, and I've as an employee, I was always a pretty good soldier. Like I you tell me what to do, I'll go do it. That's kind of the gig. That's the point. So if I were to do something like that, like let's see, something I'd be at least relatively tempted by. If Marvel asked me to write Guardians of the Galaxy, that would be something like, okay, I would like to do something with those characters. I wouldn't be tempted to kill them anyway, but that would be something to where I'd be like, I might be okay being like, okay, my boss comes in and says you have to tie it into Infinity, whatever it's up to now, like some Infinity something with Thanos and blah blah blah. I'm like, okay, I'll do it, and I think I could probably make it work. But I also was like, this is probably not going to be fun to do, and I want to have fun while I'm working, which I am.
I think that's the most important thing is loving what you do. And so I definitely understand and respect your answer. That's incredible. No, especially because you, like you said, you quit your day job. It takes a massive amount of balls to do, and then went into something that you love. And so that's very admirable.
Thanks. Yeah, I almost viewed it as not having a choice, and but I am glad I am where I am. Yeah.
Well, I remember when I first backed your campaign for issue 1, your biography really impressed me. That was what sold me a little bit on it and really kind of made me want to have you on the show. I was just like, dude, this guy is a trooper. This guy wants to make comics. And anybody that missed his opening thing, he is a cancer survivor and he left a job with great benefits because he wanted to make Black Blizzard that damn bad. And what can I say, man? He's knocking it out of the ballpark, at least so far. I don't want to give you a big head, but I'm going to back the rest of the book, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be glorious because I love Daedra. Like, she is probably one of my favorite characters I've found this year.
Oh wow, thanks. I'm pretty fond of her, obviously, but yeah. And anytime my instinct is to not say thank you whenever people say something nice about the comic. It's something I had to learn from other creators. Just say thanks, because my first like, nah, this is wrong with it, and I don't like this, and anytime someone like gives me a compliment, I'm just like, I have much more of a responsibility to that person to make sure it's worth it.
Well, you're gonna get my money from here on in. Yeah, Surge, just back it already, man. Like I said, it is dirt cheap. This guy's giving it away practically, and it's worth way more than what he's selling it for. So just help the guy out and get this baby in my hands as soon as possible because he has a killer turnaround rate. I don't even remember. Like, I paid on a Monday, got my book on a Wednesday, and it was the Wednesday right after I paid. So like, I can't even believe how fast this book got to my hands after the campaign ended. So you're not backing something that you're gonna have to wait 10 years for, and they're gonna be like, oh, the paper shortage and COVID, and like, no, Aaron's on top of this, man, at least so far. So
yeah, again, that's another responsibility I think I have as a creator. Like, I mean, I'm taking your money. I absolutely owe it to you to do these things.
Now,
and I get that it's hard sometimes, but yeah, you got to try.
For just Black Blizzard, I mean, do you have not a set amount of issues, but do you have a story length in your head for this one series? Or
I do. It does wax and wane a little bit depending on, of all things, dialogue, really. But it's about 9 issues. Yeah. I mean, I was aiming at 8, and then I was like, okay, it expands and then contracts. So I think it's going to be about that.
Yeah. No, that's perfect. I think a lot of people go wrong when they try and push things further than what they need to be. And so no, 8 issues is perfect, especially for a story. And so I'm absolutely excited. And you've got somebody that's going to be backing the next 2 through 8 for sure.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I have a million other stories, and there are ways that I could have. There are ways that I was tempted to expand it even further, but I'm like, no, this is. I kind of like restrictions a bit. I think that film, for one, is one of those things that, okay, you have to try to cram this into 2 hours. No matter what you're trying to do, you do need to have that story, unless you're Lord of the Rings or some other huge, expensive property like that. I like that limitation. I think it makes things snappier. I think whenever you have to cut out stuff you love to keep something that's even better, like that makes your story better. So I want to keep it at that limit. I don't want to expand too far out of that.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. No, I'm super excited to see what comes from Black Blizzard, man. You've definitely got a fan here, and I think with the whole podcast, we're gonna be rooting for you the whole way.
Thanks. Yeah, I appreciate that for sure. Yeah, Johnny was the first person to mention it on Twitter, I think, and he raved about it. I was like, oh, thank you. Having someone rave about something you do is weird, but it's really nice. It's great. I mean, do more. But yeah, it was. I was like, oh wow, someone really likes it. That's. It's just nice to hear. That's great.
Well, I had a good feeling about it when I backed it, but then when I read it, it blew me away. I just had so much fun with just the single issue and the setup and the characters that I was just like, this is what I'm talking about. This is what more Kickstarter should be, because I'm not going to say I get disappointed often, but like I wish a lot more of the books really amped me and turned my crank as much as yours did, because it was, I don't know, you just really seem to pour your heart into it. And a lot of people say that they do, but I don't get that feeling from too many Kickstarters, to tell you the truth. It's not trying to be a dick here, but some of it just seems like they're trying to be like, look at this thing I created that I'm trying to get Scout to pick up and run for me. And it's just like, just do your book, man. Don't worry about Scout picking it up and running it later. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I've had some that's crossed my mind sometimes, not with any specific property or story that anyone was trying to tell, but there are times whenever I see, I've done it. I see people trying to get in front of the right people with even just talent or an idea they have or something like that, and it fails. I mean, what would you say? Like 999 times out of 1,000? Like it's not worth doing that. It's much better for you to go out there, tell the story you want to tell. You're not trying to impress someone else. You're trying to give a reading experience, and I think that's much more important.
So, in future issues, will we be getting kind of flashbacks and backstories to the characters of the book?
Yeah, yes, and no. There are going to be flashbacks, and there will be characterization, especially at the beginning of issue 3, where you're going to get to know characters a little bit more. Like that characterization is going to pop in and out, of course, because that's just how that works. But there will be specific flashbacks, but it's going to have more to do with the story itself, because you don't. Well, I don't want to load backstory onto another story. Characterization's fine,
over explaining, it bogs it down. So like, I appreciate it. I really like that. That's a good answer. That's got me really excited. You're going to give us what we need to know, but yeah, not like when she was 3, Daedra skinned her knee, and that's how she got into magic.
I've seen so many stories in every medium just derail themselves by doing that, and I don't want to be one of them.
Yeah, no. I think so. This is one thing I think that Joe will appreciate. Say we get all 8 issues, all of them get back, which I'm absolutely hoping they do. We're looking at a hardcover of all 8 issues eventually, right?
There'll be yeah. I mean, if there's a way to get me on a TPB shelf at a comic shop, I'll definitely do it because right now I think that's all that sells pretty much, the direct market anyway. So yeah, definitely. I'd love anytime I can get in front of a new audience because I don't think that at least it doesn't seem to be floppy readers or the month-to-month readers. They don't overlap crazy with TPB readers. Like they seem to be a little bit separate. Anyone who really likes reading comics individually month to month, they like that and they want that experience. And then you have a bunch of people, more people probably, who are like, yeah, I want a collected work, the story start to finish. I don't want to have to do this monthly thing.
Yeah. I just, as somebody, I think Joe can appreciate that as well, because we both, and Johnny too, we all love the hardcover, like deluxe edition that you get from books. And so this is something that I would absolutely love to see in that format as well. Because like you said, I'm one of those people who actually loves both. I love the floppies month to month, but one thing that really gets me going is when you find a series that you read month to month and you love, and then you get that hardcover in and like you see it up on your shelf. And so definitely I'm looking forward to after backing all 8 of the Kickstarter. I definitely will be. I'll be backing that one for the deluxe hardcover.
Well, you sign all the floppies that you send out, which make them kind of unreadable for me. I stick to the digitals because when you put your name on it, it's special and I can't touch it. You know what I mean? That's just how I am. So like, yeah, a trade will definitely help me out.
Okay.
Plus,
well,
that's
whatever
what I like to read anyways. I mostly only support floppies and Kickstarter. That's how I roll.
Well, whenever I sign the comic at conventions, I just go, here, let me deface it for you. So I mean, I'm glad you think it's more valuable when I sign it, but man, it's kind of weird. Do you guys do any making yourselves, any comic making or stuff like that?
I've
been working on one for the longest time. Hey, we all kind of dabble. Yeah, we all have a dream of having a comic of our own.
So when you have your own thing, isn't it? It's just less precious in front of you, and it is. Because I'm the same way with other people's comics. I'm just like, oh, this, I just don't want to mess it up. It's kind of, I don't know, it's something important. But like whenever you're drawing on your page, like there's whiteout on it, and like you're scribbling in the margins, and you're just like, you don't, I don't know. At least for me, I don't think about that part until after it's done. I'm like, oh yeah, this is original art. I guess I should maybe put it in a drawer or something.
Well, yeah, at some point, like, especially if you keep on writing as good as you are, people are going to be wanting to buy that stuff for expensive money, man. Like, they're going to be offering you crazy stuff. Well,
I hope so. I do commissions and stuff, but that one page that I'm still reluctant to part with is that picture of Bohm that's basically getting attacked by the monsters that you guys have that preview of. That's that one. Because it's actually drawn on paper. I did it specifically as an homage to Gene Colan and Tom Palmer, and I found that when drawing like Gene Colan is not as hard as I thought. Inking like Tom Palmer's freaking impossible. So that one, I was like, oh, what would it take to get this out of my hands? And I was like, okay, I think $500. So I actually put that as the final tier on the Kickstarter, and I hope no one backs it.
So you mentioned some cons. Are you going to be at any cons now that the con circuit's starting back up slowly? Are you plan on attending any cons in the near future?
I don't know specifically about any one of them because, I mean, so even though I'm a cancer survivor, anyone who's had cancer can tell you that there's just some lingering complications you'll have to live with. Mm-hmm. And it does make it a little bit harder for me to get out of state. I did go to the Kansas City one. I will go to any of them that are relatively close, I think. Okay. So I might aim at a few of them that I think would do me some good. Mm-hmm. But I don't have plans for them yet. I really wanted to go to there was one in Madison. Mm-hmm. That was just like this really low key one. And my friend lives up there. I was like, I could go to that one maybe, but I ended up not being able to make it.
Okay. Wisconsin?
Which one?
Madison, Wisconsin?
Yeah.
Oh, so how far are you from Madison?
Forever. Like 8 hours.
Oh, okay. That's not
bad.
Yeah. So you're only like 6-7 hours from Texas.
Yeah, I think, yeah, that's about right.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, if you ever
Not
come to
far
a
enough.
Texas,
It's not far enough.
You're just jealous because you're in Oklahoma.
Baja, Arkansas, man. Come on, say it right.
Arkansas. But no, if you ever end up coming to a con in Texas, I've been very hesitant about getting out and about, especially with COVID. My son is still immunocompromised.
Yeah.
And so, like, I worry about that a lot, which is they had the Fan Expo this year, but I still, like, I'm not too worried about my health, but I don't want to do anything that would put my son in jeopardy.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so, like, I've been very hesitant now, especially since they brought cons back up. Like, I see them and I just like, I want to go so bad. But at the same time, like, I live in a state where nobody thinks vaccinations are a point that I'm getting into. But the whole thing is, like, I get very weary about them. However, if you're coming to a con in Texas, I will definitely be showing up just to at least shake your hand and get some comics signed twice.
I appreciate it. Yeah. I if I could make it to Texas, I would. Which major city are you closest to?
Shreveport. I'm right on the border.
Oh, okay.
Well, I'm
My dad was born in Shreveport.
Dallas and Fort Worth, but like I'm literally like I can drive 20 minutes and be in Louisiana.
Gotcha.
And so I'm in the taint of America. Because like, and the theory, and I don't bring it up often. Louisiana is America's butthole, and everybody knows that. And Texas is America's, phallic area. But
Padinger.
That's
the show term for it. Padinger.
There between Texas and Louisiana, and everybody knows the spot between the anus and the Padinger is the taint, and I live in the taint of America, and so pretty great. Fuck you, at least. Like, I've lived in other cities and other areas. Like, I lived in Mississippi for a while, and that's not much better. The exchange rate is awesome, but no, I definitely live in a weird area.
Yeah, I'd love for everything to open up as soon as it possibly can, because I would like to go to more cons. That would be fantastic. But like, I understand all of it. Like, I actually caught COVID. I ended up in the hospital, and because I'm immunocompromised, so of course I got it bad. Anyway, so yeah, I get it. Like, I understand people being like, you know what? No.
Yeah. No, and that's like me and my my partner would go to like anime conventions and Comic Cons together, and like we keep on seeing them pop up, but we just can't pull the trigger on it quite yet.
Yeah. Well, Kansas City
was
was
with a
fantastic.
group, like a lot of my buddies that I've seen, a lot of the other Kickstarter guys I roll with, they're all going to be going to New York Comic Con together. Would you be interested in maybe like hitching a ride with a bunch of buddies, or would your
I would not be
illness
opposed
kind
to
of
it all,
preclude-
but usually the problem is some sort of complication I have to deal with, or pill I have to take, or whatever. It just ends up being harder on people around me to deal with me. But yeah, I mean, there are days where it doesn't matter. Great. Hope that's one of them. Like, I would never be opposed to it, but it's complicated.
The whole world is, brother. Don't worry about it.
Right?
Yeah.
Man, this has
But all
been
right.
an absolute blast.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, I had a blast too. So I never get to
And,
talk about comics with people. Like, no one I know does it really.
Well, what are you
Well, that's
reading? You want to talk about anything particular that's going to blow in your mind that you've been checking out?
That I've been
Comic-wise?
comic wise. Let's see. Well, I've been reading a lot of older stuff. Like let's see. I mean, besides, I went through the entire run of Tomb of Dracula because I was just drooling over Gene Colan's work, which is actually why I did. I have comics all around me all the time. It's, right? Yeah.
Another feeling.
So
boxes and my action figures and stuff.
this is the Essential Doctor Strange, which I managed to pick up for like peanuts or something. I actually prefer these because they're black and white. It gets rid of all the color and all the bad color separations they had in the 1970s.
Is that Kirby?
This is not. This is Colan. So this is Gene Colan, Tom Palmer doing Doctor Strange. And because I have all these magicians in my comic now, Like I'm going through definitely Gene Colan. I'm going through Doctor Strange. I'm going through Esteban Maroto, who did a lot of 70s work and did stuff all the way up to the 90s, which is gorgeous magician type ethereal and
he worked a lot
psychedelic
on
work.
Vampirella, right?
Yeah, he did. He did work on Vampirella, Red Sonja.
Oh, I love Red Sonja. See, I'm
I know him for his classic Vampirella work. Like he is really, really good. He's a good.
Yes.
He's definitely one that I would try to steal some ideas from because like his detail is great, and yeah, he's got almost that Mila Manara
Yes.
aspect with his female characters, which is very lovely to have, in my opinion.
And he's extremely good at. If you ever get a chance to check out this thing he did called Zodiac, it's unreal how good it is, and it's watercolor and stuff. It's fantastic. Also, let's see what I'm rereading Weapon X, the Barry Windsor Smith stuff.
Oh, dude, I just read that like 2 months ago. It's in my son's
Covers
room.
are great.
I can't go and get it, but I have the Weapon X statue that my parents bought me for my birthday that has like the headset on. And oh, dude, Barry Windsor Smith is fucking. In fact, we're talking about older comics. I'm a huge Kirby fan. That one. Yeah, exactly that one. That's my favorite Weapon X. Like that's my favorite Wolverine. But I'm such a big Kirby fan. I actually
we're losing Goose.
Dakota
Hey Joe, hold that back up again. Hold up.
I just read that.
Aaron, have you ever heard of this?
Yeah, I just read it.
Yeah, our buddy Schlepsig told us about it. He did
Where did I
about
hear
4
that from?
pages in it. It's such a neat idea.
Oh yeah, there's a guy online, Michael Fitzgerald Troy, who flips through comic books, kind of like cartoonist kayfabe, and he went through
that's
that.
it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a lot of the cartoonist kayfabe guys did some pages in that and stuff. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool idea. Like if you
Some of
love
that
something,
artist-
a bunch of guys getting together and just redoing the story, each getting like 3 to 4 pages, 5 pages, and just redo the whole run. That's such a fun, great idea.
Yeah, I thought it was a really cool thing, and I was really excited to look through it. And I love I like the guys who tilted into the outlaw part of it. Like that was enjoyable. Like seeing like Wolverine just like, boy, he's just balls out and decapitating people. This is fun.
He's the best. What he does.
Yeah.
Like I was saying, my grandfather's first name is Thomas. My wife's grandfather's middle name is Wayne, and so when we were having our son, I kept on Thomas Wayne, and she would not let me do it. But I did get away with naming him Orion
Nice.
from the New Gods, and so I got away with that one.
Yeah, I've also, when you mentioned Kirby, I've also been reading his earliest stuff, like 1950s stuff. I've been going through a lot of 1950s comics for some reason, just because it's kind of a blind spot in my history, and so I started really going through it and I read the early Kirby stuff, EC stuff, and then especially like the public domain stuff, like it just went away and nobody ever really bought it, captured it, read it again. So I mean, I've been reading stuff from Bob Fujitani, who's he's as good as Alex Toth, and like just no one's heard of him. It's fantastic.
So is that the more like pulpy stuff that he did in the 50s?
Yeah, and romance stuff.
Yeah. Well, I said just recently, I've got it, the King of Comics, the Jack Kirby story, the
Tom Scioli one.
Oh, dude. And so I haven't read a lot of his earlier stuff like that when he was doing the more pulpy stuff, but it is very interesting to know. I mean, I'm guessing it's just as fantastic as his later stuff. You seem to have a big interest in it.
My opinion of Kirby, depending on era, is all over the place. Like I think he's the best comic artist at one point in time, and then I just don't like his stuff at all. And then he'll come back in like with the New Gods in like the early 80s. Like this is as good as he ever was. Like he's just fantastic again, and then he falls off again. Like he's very up and down with me. And if I did 100 pages a month, I can't. None of it would be that good. It'd be stick figures.
Was he actually able to draw that much?
Yes.
Was he actually
Yeah,
producing that
there's
much art? Wow.
yeah, there was one. There's somewhere online you can find like his published output, not just all the stuff he drew. And there was like 1 month he did like 180 pages in a month that was published.
He's a monster. I love
Yeah.
it.
He has clones. He has clones of himself. That's
I've seen pictures of him do stuff, and I've also heard stories about it where he goes directly ink to paper sometimes because he's out of time, and he'll have like 4 brushes in like each hand, and he'll just be drawing with each hand as fast as he possibly can. You're just like, how did that end up a drawing? Like, what the hell? That's amazing.
He's the Bruce Lee of basically.
Pretty much.
he's a
Yeah, he's amazing.
cyborg. He's a cyborg.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a big influence on me. I mean, we talked about manga being an influence on you, but and you were just talking about Weapon X and all that. But I mean, are there any other books that really influenced you to get into the medium?
I think so. I do have a different kind of, I don't know, definition of inspiration versus influence. Like, I'm inspired by a lot of different artists. Like but the influences I think you can probably see on the page pretty easily are Frank Miller. I think you can see Jeff Smith in there pretty easily at times. If you look at my I'm tempted not to say it, but if you look at like the way I draw characters, maybe from now on you might actually see Bernie Wrightson, at least his early stuff, because it's that exaggerated figures that I really like, and I don't usually reference whenever I draw people. I do, I have, but for the first comic, I didn't reference any people. Like, I don't do that just because it makes it just a little bit artificial, and so, what's the word? Stiff. I don't know. It makes it stiffer because I like it to look like a cartoon. Like, I know I'm looking at a drawing. I know it's in a drawing, and it's a drawn world, and it all kind of gels together like that. And I think whenever you put reference on top of reference on top of reference, and it starts looking more and more, all the elements look detached, and I don't like the way it looks. So I thought Bernie Wrightson was the best artist at just making a style all hold together.
Well, I like that you had mentioned Jeff Smith, because I really think you fall in that category where you've got a lot of people whose strong suit is writing or whose strong suit is art. And that's, kind of what they stick to. And that's what I was saying earlier, where I kind of put those illustrators on a different plane where, you have great writers, you have great artists, but it's really admirable to see somebody who is great at both. And you did everything from Black Blizzard from the top down, and you belong in that same category as guys like Jeff Smith and Jeff Lemire. And I know I'm not trying to give you it's incredible to me because I love to write. And if I was trying to put pen to paper and draw, looks like dog shit. And so, like, I admire people who have the ability to not just write what they see, not write what they want, but then be able to put those ideas to paper, because sometimes what the writer wants and what the artist draws is kind of lost in translation. And so when it's a one-man show, you really get the final product is really what was in the creator's head from the jump. And I really appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I still have fights with my writer when I'm drawing.
Oh, yeah.
So that does happen. Like, what the hell were you thinking when you made this page?
But at least the editor's not a dick.
Right? Yeah.
Well, you're up to 90% on your Kickstarter now. Well, just about.
Right.
You're
Fantastic.
at 87.4 or 874, which out of 1,000, that's woo.
Yeah.
But don't want to keep you all night, so I'm going to wrap this up. But yeah, this was a very fun, very exciting episode of Pink Buzz, where Mr. Aaron Resse joined us and talked to us about his phenomenal comic book, Black Blizzard. It is available. The second issue is running on Kickstarter. There is a link in the description if you are interested in checking this out. I very highly recommend you do. It is a good time on paper. And like I said, like I wouldn't be surprised if this thing ain't like a Netflix movie or even a theatrical film in the near future because it's that fun. And yeah, definitely check it out. Aaron, do you want to kind of plug yourself and kind of tell everybody where they can find you online? Bounce?
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, I appreciate it. Thank you all very much for having me on. Again, I don't get to talk comics a lot, so it's kind of a treat for me. And you can find me on Twitter at Deviator77. You can find me on Instagram at Aaron Resse Art. I try to post as regularly as possible. And you can also find me on DeviantArt under Aaron Resse, I think. It's been a while. But yeah, that's all my stuff. And if you get to go to the Kickstarter, check out Black Blizzard. That's my comic.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And I definitely check out the Kickstarter. Next week, we will be having Mr. John Lees on to talk with us about a couple things that he's got coming up in the near future with his comic book life. And that's going to be really exciting. But I don't know. I'm really impressed with Aaron, and I'm happy he joined us. And we learned so much more about him because I'm an even huger fan now, which I didn't think was possible. But yeah, this is Pink Buzz, a product of Graphic Vandalism. We very highly urge you to not stop reading, to keep supporting awesome music, and keep watching them killer flicks. All right, people, till next time, peace out.